Hi everyone. I know that lots of people like me struggle with figuring out investments, and today I want to talk about how I approach this, how I actually invest. So let's roll. First, let's start why I actually talk about this. I'm pretty sure every time when you research something about investments, you see that there are two distinct camps. Index investments, so-called passive investments, and then active investments like handpicking your stocks or crypto or anything outside of index funds. And I was researching this topic for years now. I'm following a bunch of different economists. I following and researching a bunch of different companies and different approaches. And what I figured out that basically these two camps always fight with each other, and each one of them tries to say that our approach is correct and the other is wrong. And the basic fight is about passive investors and index investors are saying that no one actually beaten the index few years in a row, while second camp of active investors actually say that profits of index investment is so low, it's not even covering any inflation, so you're not actually earning any money. So you need to take more risk to be able to actually get some profits. And while both make sense, what I am trying to do is to figure out ways to get best things from both camps, to be able to merge them together and to find my personal strategy. But to do so, you need to first figure out what is the basic of risks in general, how risk work and what is actually riskier versus less risky investments. And when you think about risk, it's not actually about how risky is specific asset, it's about how risky this specific investment against all your portfolio, right? And what I am actually trying to figure out is not the type of assets, but how can I actually balance my portfolio based on my risk tolerance. And let's now talk about how I actually invest, right? And how I actually approach this. First, I am not tolerant to risk at all. I need as low risk as possible for all my investments. To accommodate for that, I basically need to figure out how to balance my portfolio so I can afford having higher risk tier assets in my portfolio. And to do so, I basically take several steps towards higher risk. First, I have my emergency fund. For our family, we have 6 months of all our spendings, including investments and everything, sitting in high yield savings account. Of course, this is not growing and not making any money, but it at least saves and covers for some part of inflation. And the purpose of it is if something goes wrong and we lose all our assets or we lose our jobs, we still can support our family for at least 6 months while we're figuring out backup plans. Then second type of investment, kind of second step towards risk, is building basic portfolio. This should be passive type of investment, something that goes to the account every month, or in my example, for example, I rebalance my portfolio every 6 months. And what I do is every month I send some fixed amount of money to my investment account, and this helps to build this baseline portfolio. This baseline portfolio consists of 3 ETFs that are basically main all like wide stocks portfolio, then growth portfolio, and then bonds portfolio. What it actually helps me to do is to allow for higher risk, because again, risk is not in specific assets, but in risk versus the rest of portfolio. And the plan, I'm long-term investor, and I plan to invest for 10, 15, 20 years before I actually start using this profits from these portfolios. And this baseline portfolio will be growing no matter what happens in the world, and of course it will be dropping from time to time, but overall we can see from market history that it actually grows. And the idea is to be able to build this wealth over time and take benefit of this safer option. And then of course, while this portfolio is growing, now I can afford to have 5, maybe 10% of my portfolio in higher risk tier assets like crypto or individual stocks. And this is why I keep researching all these individual stocks. I keep researching all these cryptocurrencies to understand how they work, what they are, where are they value, and how they are going to grow in the future if it's possible. And basically I kind of build this type of portfolio separately so I can then continue investment and bring both camps together while I have my basic setup and passive setup happening and working towards my goal. I can afford risk-wise to have this higher risk assets to be able to do this 100 times grow if possible. And then last thing to talk about is the future. Basically how I look into this is, while my base portfolio is growing, I will be able to afford more and more and more riskier assets. So in ideal scenario, they will be actually growing, and hopefully if some of them grow 10, 20, 50 times in 10, 20 years period, then basically it doubles or triples the amount of overall portfolio. And then another thing is, my friend told me that basically his strategy for investment is just to invest in real estate. And I like this idea, but his approach is to save as much money as possible and just wait till recession happens. Because when recession happens, real estate will be so cheap, so you just need to pick this up. And he sits on a pile of cash till this happens. And I like this approach. This is why part of my investments also, and kind of part of savings that I make, actually goes to this real estate fund, right? It's just cash sitting in a savings account that I will be using when right time comes. To summarize everything, there are two camps that always fight with each other: passive investors versus active investors. What I try to do is to take best things from both camps and to build both types of portfolio while keeping my risk at the same level. I invest in 3 index fund portfolio, plus I invest in some specific individual stocks and cryptocurrencies. And this is how I basically look into investment strategy. Tell me in the comments below, what do you think? What's your strategy? Like this video, subscribe, and see you in the next one.